Welcome back for another deep dive. Today, we're going to be tackling some pretty powerful concepts
Yeah.
from James Allen's From Poverty to Power. You've shared excerpts from chapters covering, you know,
A huge range.
a huge range. I mean, we're talking the realization of prosperity and peace, the world of reflexive mental states,
Right.
even the two masters, self and truth.
Hmm.
And that's just, scratching the surface. It seems like you're really interested in Alan's approach to personal transformation,
Yeah.
spirituality, and, creating a fulfilling life.
Yeah, definitely.
So let's unpack what he has to say and see how these ideas,
Right.
some over a century old, might still be relevant to you today.
What strikes me about Allen is that he doesn't just talk about these concepts in a vague or abstract way.
Right.
He actually provides a very practical system for achieving what he calls true prosperity,
Mm-hmm.
which we'll see goes far beyond just material wealth.
Yeah, that's what caught my eye, too. We're
Yeah.
talking lasting happiness, genuine spiritual power, the kind of stuff that really makes a difference.
Absolutely, in how we experience life.
Oh, sure.
But let's start with one of Allen's most fundamental ideas,
Okay.
that our inner world shapes our outer reality.
Rather.
He's basically saying that our thoughts, desires, and beliefs actually create our experiences.
Yeah.
Have you ever noticed that, like, when you're feeling negative, the whole world seems to reflect that negativity back at you?
Yeah, it's like the world becomes a mirror,
Right.
just reflecting our inner state.
Exactly.
And Alan uses a fascinating analogy to illustrate this point.
Okay.
He talks about a naturalist and a farmhand encountering the same pool of water.
Okay. I'm intrigued. Tell me more about that.
So the naturalist, with his trained eye,
Mm-hmm.
sees a whole microcosm of life teeming within the water.
Wow.
He sees intricate ecosystems, tiny organisms interacting, a whole world of wonder invisible to the untrained eye.
Wow. That's quite a perspective.
Yeah.
But what about the farmhand?
The farmhand focused on the practicalities just sees a muddy puddle full of
Yeah.
tadpoles.
Okay. Same water, completely different realities
Totally.
based on their perceptions and focus.
That's such a vivid example. It really makes you wonder what tadpoles we might be missing in our own lives because of our limited perspective.
Right.
What would it take to shift our mental lens and see the hidden wonders?
Yeah.
It reminds me of that saying, if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it leads us to another challenging concept Allen explores,
Okay.
the idea of evil as a teacher, not as some ultimate enduring force.
Oh,
Now, before you think he's advocating for negativity, hear me out.
yeah, I have to admit that one threw me for a loop at first, too.
Yeah.
But I'm ready to hear how he unpacks this idea.
So Allen argues that what we perceive as evil isn't some cosmic power,
Right.
but rather a temporary state rooted in ignorance,
Hmm.
like a child learning about fire.
Okay.
The child might touch the flame out of curiosity,
Yeah.
get burned, and then learn to avoid it in the future.
Right.
It's a painful experience, but it ultimately leads to wisdom and growth.
So he's suggesting that even those really challenging, painful experiences we go through
Right.
can be opportunities for learning valuable lessons.
Precisely. It's a radical shift in perspective.
Totally.
Instead of viewing suffering and misfortune as punishments or simply bad luck,
Right.
we can see them as opportunities for learning, growth, and even spiritual development.
That is a pretty big mindset shift.
Yeah.
But how do we actually apply that in our lives? How do we move out of what Alan calls undesirable conditions?
Right.
I'm guessing he doesn't just tell us to grin and bear it, right?
Oh, absolutely not. This is where things get really practical.
Oh, okay.
Allen is a big advocate for self-mastery through disciplined thought.
Okay.
He's all about taking control of our minds and using that power to overcome negativity and create positive change.
So it's about becoming the master of our own minds rather than letting our minds run the show. I can see how that would be empowering.
Exactly.
But what specific steps does he suggest?
He offers several. One of them is transforming your current environment,
Okay.
no matter how limited it might seem, into a reflection of what you want to create.
Okay.
It's about taking those small steps,
Yeah.
those micro actions that align with your goals.
So even if we're feeling stuck or limited,
Right.
we can start making small changes in our immediate surroundings
Exactly.
to reflect the bigger vision we have for our lives.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And those small changes can have a ripple effect,
Right.
shifting our energy and creating momentum.
Yeah.
Another practical step he emphasizes is optimizing the resources we do have,
Yeah.
whether that's time, money, or our skills and talents.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's about using what we have wisely and intentionally,
Right.
even if we feel like we don't have much.
Yeah.
I'm starting to see how this all connects back to the idea that our thoughts shape our reality.
It's all interwoven.
Yeah.
Alan also challenges us to view those difficult circumstances, whether it's a demanding boss, financial hardship, or any other challenge, as opportunities for spiritual growth.
Okay, I'm seeing a theme here.
Yeah,
Shifting our perspective to see challenges as opportunities rather than roadblocks.
precisely.
But how do we move past that initial feeling of self-pity or frustration when things get tough?
He's not saying it's easy, but he encourages us to replace self-pity with self-reliance
Okay.
and constructive action.
Mm,
Instead of dwelling on the problem, focus on finding solutions.
right.
And this ties into another key concept. He explores
Right.
the link between faith, health, and success.
I'm really curious to hear more about that because the connection between faith and success isn't always obvious,
Right.
especially in today's world.
Yeah.
What's Alan's perspective on this?
He ties physical well-being and outward success to inner harmony and a deep sense of faith.
So he's saying that our inner state actually impacts our physical health and our ability to succeed.
Precisely.
Okay.
He even shares a story about a man who finds healing through what he calls renunciation, which basically means letting go of negativity, fear, and limiting beliefs.
Now, that's interesting because it aligns with what we're learning about psychosomatic illness
Yeah,
and the mind-body connection.
absolutely.
There's so much research showing how our thoughts and emotions
For sure.
can directly impact our physical health.
Absolutely. And there's a growing body of evidence supporting the effectiveness of practices like meditation,
Right.
mindfulness, and even positive self-talk
Yeah.
for improving both mental and physical well-being.
So Alan was really ahead of his time in understanding how intertwined our inner and outer worlds are.
Yeah, for sure.
But he goes even deeper, exploring the secret of abounding happiness.
Hmm.
And what's really interesting is that he doesn't equate happiness with material possessions,
Right.
status, or any of those external things we often chase.
That's right.
So what does he say?
He asserts that lasting happiness comes from aligning ourselves with what's eternal and unchanging,
Oh.
with principles and values that transcend the ups and downs of everyday life.
Mm-hmm.
He uses a very moving anecdote to illustrate this point.
Okay.
He tells a story about a person who finds true happiness through selfless service.
Wow.
It's a powerful reminder that true fulfillment comes from giving, not getting.
That's a beautiful story. And it's interesting how that aligns with modern psychology research on the benefits of altruism
Yeah.
and connection for well-being.
For sure.
When we focus on contributing to something larger than ourselves, it brings a sense of meaning and purpose that material wealth simply can't provide.
Absolutely. It's about tapping into that deeper part of ourselves that yearns for connection,
Right.
purpose, and contribution.
And that's where another key practice comes into play, meditation.
Yes.
Meditation, okay. This is where I get a little skeptical sometimes because it can feel a bit esoteric,
Right.
but I'm open to hearing how Alan ties it all together.
Yeah, he emphasizes meditation as a practical tool
Okay.
for spiritual growth and connecting with what he calls truth. He points out the interesting parallel between Buddha and Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Both achieved profound spiritual realizations through deep contemplation.
Okay, so he's placing meditation in a context that resonates with both Eastern and Western spiritual traditions.
Exactly.
But how does he see meditation as a practical tool for everyday life?
It's not just about passively sitting in silence.
Okay.
For Alan, meditation is about actively training the mind,
Okay.
cultivating positive qualities, and aligning ourselves with those eternal truths he talks about.
So it's more about cultivating a certain quality of mind rather than escaping from our thoughts.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this fits into his overall philosophy.
Yeah.
And on a practical level,
Yeah.
meditation can help us overcome negative thoughts, reduce stress,
Mm,
and develop those qualities like love, patience, and forgiveness that we were talking about earlier.
precisely.
It sounds like he's saying that meditation is essential for creating that inner harmony he links to both success and happiness. I'm starting to understand why you said he provides a practical system
Right.
for achieving true prosperity.
Yeah.
But he doesn't stop there, does he?
No, he doesn't.
He also talks about this internal struggle
Right.
between self and truth.
Right. That's right. And this is where things get even more interesting. It's that inner battle we all experience
Right.
between our ego with all its desires, fears, and insecurities,
Mm-hmm.
and what Alan calls our higher self.
Okay.
that part of us that's connected to something bigger, something more meaningful.
So it's like we have these two internal masters vying for control, the ego-driven self,
Right.
and this more spiritually aligned truth. But what exactly does he mean by truth in this context?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Allen uses truth to represent a few different things.
Okay.
Sometimes it refers to those universal principles of love, wisdom, and justice.
Right.
Other times it seems to point towards a kind of spiritual enlightenment
Okay.
or a deep understanding of the interconnectedness of all things.
It sounds like truth for Alan is more than just facts or information.
Right.
It's about aligning ourselves with a deeper sense of purpose and meaning.
Exactly.
But I can see how that internal struggle can play out in our lives.
Exactly. Allen challenges us to examine our motives.
Okay.
Are we driven by selfish desires,
Right.
by that ego-driven need for recognition or validation?
Mm-hmm.
Or are we striving to align ourselves with truth, with what's truly good, right, and beneficial for ourselves and others?
That's a really powerful question to ask ourselves.
Yeah.
Because our motives shape our actions.
Right.
And our actions shape our reality.
Precisely. And it leads us to another key concept Allen explores,
Okay.
the nature of true power.
Okay.
Now, he's not talking about power in the traditional sense,
Right.
as dominance, control, or brute force.
So what is his definition of true power? Because I think we all want to feel empowered in our lives,
Mm-hmm.
but sometimes it's hard to know where that power comes from.
For Allen, true power comes from focused consciousness, from mastering our thoughts and emotions,
Mm-hmm.
and from unwavering adherence to those principles of truth we were just talking about.
Right.
He contrasts the instability of someone driven by ego and self-interest
Okay.
with the calm resilience of a person who is grounded in principles.
It's like the difference between a flimsy house built on sand
Right.
and a solid fortress built on bedrock.
Yeah.
One is easily shaken by the slightest storm,
Exactly.
while the other stands firm unshaken.
Exactly. And he believes this concept applies not just to personal development,
Right.
but also to leadership and influence.
Okay.
Think about the people you admire, those who radiate genuine power and inspire others.
Mm-hmm.
Their power likely isn't coming from ego or a desire for control.
Right.
It's probably rooted in their integrity, their commitment to their values,
Yeah.
and their unwavering dedication to serving something larger than themselves.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It's about aligning our actions with our principles and letting our character speak for itself. Now, I know we need to talk about one of Alan's most challenging and perhaps most important concepts, the law of love.
This is where Allen takes us beyond the personal
Okay.
and into the realm of universal love and compassion.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not just talking about romantic love
Okay.
or even love for our family and friends.
Right.
He's talking about a love that transcends personal judgment,
Okay.
a love that embraces all beings with understanding and kindness.
That sounds incredibly idealistic.
Yeah.
Almost impossible to achieve in a world that often feels so divided and full of conflict.
Right.
How does he suggest we even begin to cultivate this kind of universal love?
It's definitely not easy.
Right.
Allen challenges us to consider how holding on to anger, resentment, or judgment towards others
Okay.
actually impacts our own peace of mind.
Mm-hmm.
He's suggesting that harboring these negative emotions is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. Yeah.
Ouch, that's a powerful image. I think we've all experienced how holding on to anger or resentment just ends up hurting us more than anyone else.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he's not advocating for becoming a doormat or condoning harmful actions.
Right.
It's more about recognizing the interconnectedness of all beings
Okay.
and choosing to respond to negativity with understanding and compassion, rather than adding more fuel to the fire.
So it's about recognizing that we're all on this journey together.
Yes.
And that even those who act in hurtful ways
Right.
are often acting from a place of pain or ignorance.
Yeah.
It's a radical shift in perspective, but I can see how it could be incredibly liberating.
It's about breaking free from that cycle of negativity
Right.
and choosing to respond to the world with love even when it's difficult.
Yeah.
And this idea of interconnectedness ties directly into another powerful concept Allen explores,
Okay.
entering into the infinite.
Okay, that sounds a bit intimidating.
Yeah.
Are we talking about astral projection or some kind of out-of-body experience?
Yeah, I don't know.
What does he mean by entering into the infinite?
He's talking about transcending the limits of our personal ego,
Okay.
that small, separate sense of self,
Mm-hmm.
and merging with something larger, something universal.
Okay.
He uses a beautiful analogy to illustrate this idea.
Okay.
Imagine a drop of water rejoining the ocean.
So it's about recognizing that we're not isolated individuals,
Right.
but part of a vast interconnected web of being.
Precisely. It's about shifting our perspective from me to we
Right.
and realizing that we're all ultimately interconnected like drops in the same cosmic ocean.
It reminds me of those ideas in modern physics about everything being energy,
Right.
constantly vibrating and interacting. It's almost like Alan was tapping into those universal truths through his own intuition and spiritual practice.
Yes, and this concept of interconnectedness resonates with various spiritual traditions
Mm-hmm.
as well as with modern ideas about non-duality.
Okay.
The idea that there's ultimately no separation between ourselves and the universe.
It's a mind-blowing concept when you really sit with it.
It is. It really is.
It definitely challenges our usual egocentric perspective.
For sure.
But Alan doesn't just leave us floating in these abstract concepts.
Right.
He brings it back down to earth with his discussion of saints, sages, and saviors.
Right. He seems to have a deep admiration for those who embody this law of love through selfless service.
Okay.
Those who dedicate their lives to helping others and uplifting humanity.
So it's about putting those principles into action.
Yes.
Not just thinking about them or talking about them.
Exactly. He elevates those individuals who embody love, compassion, and service in their daily lives.
Right.
But he's also quick to critique those who boast about their good deeds or seek recognition for their efforts.
So true service is about giving without expecting anything in return. It's
Exactly.
about acting from a place of genuine love and compassion rather than seeking personal gain.
Precisely.
Okay.
And he challenges us to consider what true service means in our own lives.
Yeah.
How can we contribute to the well-being of others in a way that transcends personal gain and truly makes a difference?
That's a powerful question to reflect on. And it ties into something that's been resonating with me throughout this entire deep dive.
Yeah.
Alan's reframing of prosperity.
Yes. He's not just talking about financial wealth or outward success.
Mm-hmm.
He talks about true prosperity as an inner state of being.
What does he include in this idea of true prosperity?
For Alan, true prosperity is characterized by qualities like integrity,
Okay.
honesty, generosity,
Right.
kindness, and love.
It's that idea that as within, so without,
Yeah.
that our inner world ultimately creates our outer experience.
Exactly. He encourages us to trust in the power of right action, even when faced with challenges.
Right.
He cautions against becoming consumed by competition, reminding us that true success is built upon a foundation of integrity and adherence to principles.
So it's about recognizing that our true competition isn't with others, but with those limiting beliefs and negative habits within ourselves.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And when we shift our focus from external competition to inner transformation,
Right.
we open ourselves up to a whole new level of abundance and fulfillment.
It sounds like he's saying that true prosperity is an inside-out phenomenon.
Yes.
It starts with cultivating a heart that is rich in virtue and overflows with love.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
Yeah.
And that's what makes his philosophy so empowering,
Right.
because it means that no matter our circumstances, we have the power to create a life of true prosperity starting right here, right now.
That's such a hopeful and inspiring message.
It is.
But he also acknowledges that life isn't always easy, right?
Right.
What does he have to say about facing those inevitable challenges and setbacks?
He emphasizes the importance of faith,
Okay.
not just faith in some external power,
Right.
but faith in the inherent goodness of the universe and in our own ability to overcome obstacles and achieve our goals. He also talks a lot about resilience, about persevering in the face of adversity.
So it's about cultivating that inner strength and determination that allows us to bounce back from challenges and keep moving forward.
Exactly. And he even sees those difficult experiences as opportunities for growth,
Right.
as stepping stones on the path to greater wisdom and spiritual understanding.
It's about learning from our mistakes, seeing failures as valuable lessons, and never giving up on our dreams. Which brings us back to another practice he emphasizes.
Yeah.
Meditation.
He sees meditation as a practical tool for calming the mind,
Okay.
gaining clarity, and connecting with a deeper level of wisdom and insight.
He's not presenting it as some esoteric practice for monks and mystics,
Yeah,
but as something we can all benefit from in our daily lives.
exactly. He points to examples like Buddha and Jesus,
Right.
both of whom achieved profound spiritual realizations through deep contemplation.
And he emphasizes that meditation isn't just about passively sitting in silence.
Right.
So it's not about emptying our minds or escaping from our thoughts.
It's more about actively training the mind, cultivating positive qualities, and aligning ourselves with those eternal truths that lie at the heart of our being.
So it's about actively shaping our inner world,
Yes.
which then influences our outer world. It all ties back to that core principle.
It does.
but I'm curious to hear more about how he connects meditation to this idea of the two masters, the self and the truth.
That's a great segue because Alan sees meditation as a powerful tool for helping us navigate that inner battle
Right.
between the ego-driven self and the truth.
Okay.
Through meditation, we can start to quiet the constant chatter of the ego,
Right.
those nagging doubts and fears that often hold us back from living in alignment with our highest values.
So meditation helps us create space between ourselves and those often automatic thoughts and reactions that stem from the ego. I can see how that would be helpful in making more conscious choices.
Exactly. By calming the mind and cultivating inner stillness, we can start to tap into a deeper level of awareness. That part of ourselves that's connected to wisdom, intuition, and those universal principles Alan associates with truth.
It's almost like meditation helps us access that inner compass, that guiding voice within that often gets drowned out by the noise of our busy minds
Right.
and the demands of the external world.
That's a great way to put it.
Oh,
And Alan suggests that through consistent meditation,
okay.
we can start to overcome those negative self-sabotaging thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
cultivate a greater sense of inner peace, and tap into a source of wisdom and guidance that transcends the limitations of our rational minds.
Wow.
It's about connecting with our higher selves, that part of us that's aligned with love,
Right.
truth, and those higher principles that guide us towards a more fulfilling life.
Wow. It sounds like he's suggesting that meditation is a key to unlocking our true potential
Yeah.
and experiencing lasting happiness and fulfillment, not just fleeting moments of pleasure,
Right.
but a deep sense of joy and purpose that comes from living in alignment with our values.
You're getting it. He's advocating for a shift from a purely external, materialistically focused existence,
Right.
that constant striving for more,
Yeah.
to a life that prioritizes inner growth, spiritual development, and connection to something larger than ourselves.
It's about recognizing that true wealth and abundance are
Yeah.
found not in our bank accounts or possessions,
Right?
but in the richness of our inner lives.
Absolutely.
It's such a radical idea in today's world that true happiness and fulfillment come from within,
Yeah.
not from external things.
He's definitely challenging the status quo.
Eh.
And this is where I think one of Alan's most powerful and enduring messages comes in.
Okay.
The idea that we are ultimately the creators of our own reality.
That's a bold statement. He's
Yeah.
not suggesting that we can just magically manifest anything we want with our thoughts, is he?
No, it's not about some kind of simplistic law of attraction.
Right.
He's acknowledging that life is complex,
Yeah.
that there are external forces at play,
Right.
and that we don't always have control over our circumstances.
For sure.
But what he is emphasizing is the immense power of our thoughts, beliefs,
Attitudes and actions in shaping the world around us.
So it's more about taking responsibility for our inner world
Right.
and recognizing that it's not some separate, isolated realm.
Exactly.
It's the very foundation upon which our outer reality is built.
Exactly. He's urging us to become conscious creators of our lives.
right?
To stop sleepwalking through our days, reacting to whatever comes our way, and to wake up to the incredible power we possess to shape our destiny.
Yeah.
It's about aligning our thoughts, beliefs, and actions
Right.
with the reality we want to create.
It sounds like he's calling for a shift from a victim mentality, feeling powerless in the face of circumstances,
Right.
to one of empowerment and self-mastery.
Precisely.
It's about recognizing that even though we can't control everything that happens to us,
Right.
we can control how we respond,
Absolutely.
how we interpret those events, and how we choose to move forward. Exactly. And that shift in perspective can be incredibly transformative.
Yeah.
Because it allows us to step into our full potential as conscious creators of our lives.
So after diving deep into Alan's work,
Yeah.
exploring everything from the power of thought to the law of love and the concept of entering into the infinite,
Right.
what stands out to you as his most valuable takeaway?
That's a great question. I think one of those powerful and enduring aspects of Alan's philosophy is this idea that we have a choice. We can choose to be ruled by our ego, by those fears, doubts, and limiting beliefs.
Right.
Or we can choose to align ourselves with truth, with love, with those higher principles that resonate deep within our hearts.
It's about remembering that we're not just passive passengers on this journey of life.
Right.
We're active participants, co-creators of our experience.
Precisely. And that's incredibly empowering.
Yeah.
Because it means that no matter our circumstances, no matter our past mistakes, we have the ability to change, to grow, and to create a life that's truly aligned with our highest aspirations.
It all comes down to making conscious choices,
Yeah.
cultivating positive qualities,
Hmm.
taking responsibility for our inner world, and trusting in the inherent goodness of the universe and our own capacity for growth and transformation.
And I think that's a message that's as relevant today
Yeah,
as it was when Alan wrote these words over a century ago.
absolutely.
His work is a powerful reminder that the journey of personal growth and spiritual awakening is an ongoing process,
Right.
a continuous unfolding of our potential,
Yeah.
and that the power to create a more fulfilling and meaningful life lies within each and every one of us.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into James Allen's From Poverty to Power, I want to leave you with a question he poses towards the end of his book.
Okay?
A question that challenges us to move beyond intellectual understanding
Right.
and take concrete action to embody these principles in our daily lives and become living examples of the transformative power of love and truth. He asks, if you were to fully embrace this philosophy, what one change would you make in your life, starting today?
It's a powerful question that invites us to reflect on what resonated most deeply with us during this exploration,
Right.
to consider what one small step we can take today,
Yeah.
to align our lives more fully with the wisdom we've uncovered.
Because even the smallest act of love, of kindness, of service can ripple outwards, creating a positive impact far beyond what we can imagine.
Absolutely.
And as Alan so eloquently reminds us, the world is a reflex of you.
Mm-hmm.
So let us strive to create a world that reflects the very best of who we are, a world filled with love, peace, and enduring prosperity.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
Until next time, keep seeking, keep questioning, and keep growing.